bit excited about this one. And thanks to our sponsors, Whippersnapper, Margaret River Roasting, Bluebet, Shelter Brewing Co., Leadable Cameras. Yes, there's a lot of them, Charlie. That is right. We are very happy to have this man in studio. Big Charles. How are you, mate? What's going on?
Very good. Thanks for having me, lads.
Charlie Dixon from the Port Adelaide Footy Club. They're over here playing in the practice matches, and we thought, what a chance we'll get the best man into the house. Now, Charlie, we're straight into it, right, mate? We asked the same question to every guest. I'm sure you're a big fan of BackChat, by the way. I'm sure you've been listening to the episodes. Just nod your head. And
mate. Yep.
So, greatest sporting achievement. Right, we ask every guest this. Now, we know you've been an All-Australian player. You vice-captained the Gold Coast Suns at one stage. I don't know if you remember that, but you did. We know you've done a lot on the football field, right?
Do you remember doing that? No, not really.
We know you've done a lot. You've been finals. You've been second in the Coleman medal. Like, he's done a lot, Dan, on the footy field.
Apparently.
But your greatest sporting achievement not on the football field. You can't tell us, I kicked a big goal out from outside 50. We see all that.
We've seen the boundary goals.
We want to know what you've done off the footy field. So I can see you looking at this beautiful trophy here, and you ask, what is it? And so do I sometimes.
Yeah,
what
grand
is that?
final performance by yours truly, under-12s Chute Hill Cricket Club, elite club over here. It's like one of the premier ones. 5 wickets for 16 runs in the grand final. Yep.
That's unreal.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
5 for 16 grand final. I'm a state under-9s 80-metre hurdle champion.
80-metre hurdle.
Yeah.
Wow.
We've had poker players. We've had
pigeon races.
We've had javelin throwers.
Skateboarders. People getting leads in play, which...
And these are champions like you are at your game. But what is your greatest sporting achievement not on the football field?
Oh, wow.
I gave you a lot of time to think of one.
Yeah.
As well.
No, I don't know. I played a bit of basketball.
Saw that.
Oh, I remember, I think the name's still up there. It was like a under 10s, under 12s, like best and fairest or something like that. And I had my name, C. Dixon, up on the wall and in the main sort of arena at the Cairns Marlins Basketball Centre. So every time I used to walk past it, I'd be like, "That's my name." that was the first thing that came to my head.
No, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah,
BNF's good.
Mate, the Cairns Marlins. And just walk through the
main area. I don't know if I haven't been back there in years, but probably about 5 years ago I went there. My name was still there. So, but. Yeah, you walk through the main entrance, the main court's on the right, and then all the other courts are on the left. But through there's all the memorabilia, and a little C. Dixon is sitting up top there.
What was your first job? You're from Queensland, aren't you? Yep. Grew up in Cairns?
Yeah, first job, I worked for my dad. He had a bus company and that ran sort of tours from Cairns to the Daintree, pick up all the reefs and all that sort of stuff. So we used to polish rims and bull bars, and it was
polisher.
After
polisher.
Genuine polisher. Yeah, when I didn't stick at it as long as my brother did. He was pretty I do it after.
He's a long time polisher.
Yeah, did it after school. We'd go there because I have to wait for mum and dad to take us home, and anyway, I'd be getting $8 an hour and sort of sitting there. Started off, Dad wouldn't give us the buff. We'd have to do it by hand, and you'd be sitting there polishing with a rag and a bit of thing, and you'd be on a little chair, and some of the buses had 6 wheels, right? And so you're there. A bus takes a long time by hand.
Did you had you polishing the toe balls?
The bull bars. Yeah, bull bars. Yeah, it was, and then from there, I did
promotions. You start driving.
I did
buses,
not.
or?
My brother went from doing that to then he was a hostie, so he'd go up on his days off on school. When we were at school, we used to have Thursdays off.
Yeah,
if you're 11 and 12, so he would go and host. Up on the train and sort of tell people where to go and all this sort of stuff. And I went from there and went to Macca's, and I was serving. I worked at Macca's.
What's with people serving Macca's on this show? So you worked at Macca's?
I did. I actually said I'm going on holidays and didn't go back, so I'm currently still on holidays.
Wow. Now this leads
just have a fallback.
I mean, mate, we've got to ask the fillet of fish.
Oh yeah, fillet of fish. How did you go?
Where do you sit with fillet of fish?
I wouldn't touch it. Wouldn't go near it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's changed a lot since you. I mean, you still work there technically.
Yeah, technically.
So you haven't been updated on the new.
Dan's a big fillet of fish guy.
Okay.
And
fillet.
What is it?
The fillet of fish.
I could not think of anything worse.
No.
And I asked people who work at Macca's, what actually goes into that? Is there fish in there?
I've got no idea. But I don't reckon I can remember someone ever ordering one.
Dan never made it.
That's good. They're always made fresh.
Yeah, exactly. They've been sitting in the freezer for 5-10 years or something.
So you grew up in Queensland, in Cairns. Do you play footy? Like, do you play footy growing up?
I sort of played a little bit here and there. I didn't really like it that much. So I just wanted to be a basketballer. But my brother loved footy. So he was playing footy and then he stopped playing basketball and I just kept playing basketball. And then I'd come in and fill in for footy a little bit. And then I just sort of didn't want to do it. And then eventually fell out of basketball and then sort of gave footy a good crack when I was about 15. Yeah. And then sort of did a bit of representative stuff and regional and state stuff and then got asked to join a Brisbane club. And but yeah, it wasn't a big footy scene. But
did you move to Brisbane?
Yeah, I moved to Brisbane with my brother moved down in 2007 and then I moved down in 2008 to the Redland Bombers. Yeah. And we spent a year, he spent probably 5 years down there, he did, and I spent a year with them and then got picked up by the Gold Coast end of 2008.
Your timing was unreal. I mean, for a startup club to be coming into the Queensland region, you were like ripe for the picking.
Pretty much,
Local boy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gun.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I was just
mate, you're one of the first
very skinny.
Yeah, but you're no longer skinny. I can tell you that right now. But you're in the actual catchment area, right?
Yeah,
like you were picked
absolutely.
up as a local signing. You signed with them as a TAC Cup team.
Yeah, well, that's it. So Dame Beans, myself, Zach Smith, Rory Thompson, and Jesse Haberfield, and maybe one other. We were all in the same room. Beamsy was like, "Nah, I'm going to play AFL, and I'm going to play for Collingwood."
Really?
So it's like, "All right, mate, see ya." And he did, and he came out in his first year, and like, you know, how Beamsy was, he just dominated. So
wow.
And I was like, "Yeah, well, I'm this skinny, 97 kilo kid that's 200 centimeters. I need some time to develop. I'm not going to play." So I was like, "This is good." Got a 3-year contract. First ever signed with the Suns, and then Rory Thompson and a few other boys, Zach Smith, I think they signed the next day or something like that.
Yeah.
And
because TAC Cup's under 18, so I'm a Victorian, so know what TAC Cup is, but it's like Colts footy over here in Western Australia. Yeah. It's the under 18 comp. So they started the team, and you guys you weren't in the AFL. You were underage side.
Underage, yeah. So we were like, I was 17 when I signed, just turned 18, in September. So yeah, just turned 18 when I signed, and then we would just run around and
what jumpers did you have? Gold Coast jumpers on?
Well, our first preseason, we had like running shorts and then cotton singlets with ironed on GC logo, cotton, and Reebok logo.
Thanks for that in the humidity.
Yeah, well, like they were wet sort of instantly in the warm up, and then they just said, "Oh, well, you can take your tops off, but just put them in your shorts for bibs and skins," sort of thing. So like all the lads were so tan, and like I remember our first game. I missed the first game, I think, for because I had osseous pubis, like every young bloke did back in the day.
That was a trend.
Yeah, wasn't it? Yeah. It's unheard of now at the moment. No one has it. Yeah, no one. You be right, mate. Get through it.
Stressies now. Stress factors.
Yeah, exactly.
Hotspot.
But I remember boys got sort of whacked. I forget by who, and they're like, "Oh well, at least you guys look good." Everyone was so tan, and because we just had spent the whole summer, no shirts on, and we it was an unbelievable experience. Like I loved it. We'd go train all day, and then everyone would go down the beach together, and we'd all most of the boys lived all
were you living
to each
together?
other.
Like, were you in
we were building it out.
Yeah.
I had family friends that lived in Runaway Bay, and then all the other boys were in Miami, towards Burleigh and all that sort of stuff. So
unreal.
We'd just go down, swim down there, go to sushi train, and just we'd just be we're just young kids living, you know.
Did it feel like you were at an AFL club?
Absolutely not.
No,
we're just having the time of our life.
So was it all the players in that TAC team? Are they all potential? They were signed as AFL players, or are they just like?
Yeah, well, Rory Thompson's still in the Gold Coast team.
He just retired, I think, this year.
Zach Smith was a ruckman in Geelong.
It was just basically the Queensland state side.
Yeah.
So that was sort of us, and then we went to the VFL. Then we got a few selected boys out of the draft and pre-draft and all that sort of stuff, like Dave Swallow, Trent McKenzie, Luke Russell, Maverick Weller, Tommy Nichols, and a few others like that. I think we got a bunch of them.
In the VFL.
Then we played in the VFL. Yeah.
So you've gone from the under 18 state comp to the VFL.
Yeah.
Were you getting smacked?
Yeah, we did. We made it to one of the first finals in the TAC Cup, and then we were okay, but it was like everything was brand new. Like we were trying to make our own. You know, how, like footy clubs, you're a young bloke, you walk in and these are the rules. This is it. You go into a brand new football club, and everyone's working hard to try and work out what we stand for, what we're going to be, what we're going to do. So it sort of becomes every year was like, right, what are we going to stand for this year?
And your kids, right?
Yeah.
There's no.
I was one of the
Adelaide
oldest.
and Bach
There's no
and
veteran players.
Campbell Brown. All those guys hadn't been. They weren't there.
They didn't come till end of the VFL year.
Right.
So that first, when was that? 2010. End of 2010. We had that's when all the older boys come. So
facilities and no senior players. Like what is it like to be in that? Like, do you have a team song? Like what are you guys?
What are you doing over there?
Yeah. No, I don't even think we had a team song because we were called the GC17 for a while in that first, because it was the 17th team. We went the TAC Cup. I can't remember if we sang a song.
Wow.
Because I remember the first time we won a game in the AFL, we held up, our property guy held up the lyrics.
It's crazy.
And we're all looking at it reading it off the thing because and it wasn't all finalised until we were actually in the AFL, which what we were called. And so
the Suns
and everything like that. So that wasn't sort of through until we were halfway through the VFL year, I'm pretty sure, if I can remember back then. But yeah. But like I said, it was just
Did you have club rooms?
Yeah.
Didn't you have dongers and stuff?
Yeah, we had dongers. Yeah. So out the back, before they started building Carrara, the stadium.
Yeah.
So it was Carrara back then. And I grew up, all the footy I did was at that. It was a big sort of big
so it was
ground.
Like a home ground.
It was like a home ground sort of thing. And then we went, and then they built a big tin shed for our gym. But before they did that, we were in demountables no bigger than this room. And you got 40 blokes in there lifting, doing bench press and doing dumbbell, all this other weird stuff. And then they built us a big tin shed. That's where all the gym stuff was, and then bikes and all that stuff was in there. And then when they started demolishing Carrara, they picked that shed up, moved it down to the back near the river. And then we trained out on the soccer ovals, which Guy McKenna, he broke his ankle out there doing some training with us.
Oh, in a divot.
In a divot, yeah. And then same with
any players
Harrow. He did did an ankle, had to get surgery. It was an absolute goat track.
Are you playing AFL at this stage? Or are you still in the VFL?
No, this is still VFL.
Oh, I mean, people are critical of Gold Coast performance in the first few years.
Yeah.
I mean, probably speaks to a little bit of the fact.
Ammos.
Well, it starts it's worse than Ammos, mate. Ammos, you have senior players. You
that's true.
you have the culture. You walk into an amateur club, and it's these are the rules, boys. Yeah. This is when you can, on field, this is what we do, this is what we stand for. But off field, this is when you drink. You got 17-year-old blokes trying to set culture. That's a difficult ask, right?
Yeah. Well, then we had a couple of sort of senior boys, Danny Stanley, Sammy Isles, come from Collingwood. They came for the VFL year. I think we had maybe one or two others as well. But yeah, they're still kids as well, So we were just trying to make our own way, and sort of how it all ended up. But yeah, I didn't have. The whole time I was there, the newest facility we had was the stadium, Metricon. They were the newest change rooms that we had, but we were still having all our team meetings and everything else out in the dongers.
In the shed.
Out the shed. So when I moved to Port, I think it was a year or another year after that, they got all the new facilities.
Right.
So it was
7 years.
7 years, yeah.
Sheesh. Do you think it would be different? So obviously now there's a lot of talk around the Tassie team. Surely they can't do the same thing again. They would have to build in better structure in place for a new team
I think
to come in
so.
now.
Because it's sort of you look at the GWS and the way they sort of did it. I suppose they may have had they looked at us and what we probably didn't do right, and then they made sure they did some certain other things right over there and whatnot. So to be able to, they've got two.
Guinea pigs.
Yeah, two guinea pigs really. So they don't really have an excuse if they're going to go for another team in Tassie.
Yeah. That
it needs to be sort of someone that goes in there and knows how to run the place properly, and get certain players in that are like that. Just probably the 24, 25-year-olds that are sort of coming through and are genuine leaders and can run the football club and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I still wouldn't change a thing. I mean, I was so privileged to be able to play there and be a part of a brand new club. Like, I love that place and probably loved it a little bit too much and get carried away a little bit because no one knew who we were and we could go and have a drink and no one would even bat their eyes at us other than the coaches.
The hub over there, when we spent time in the hub, I just remember thinking, like, how does not every player in the AFL want to play for Gold Coast? Like, this place is unbelievable. No one knows a thing about you. The beaches are beautiful, great restaurants, like weather's great. It was unreal. I can see how much you loved it. So, you played as a TAC Cup in the under-18s, played in the VFL, but you get to the AFL. Do you remember your first game? I mean, it's pretty significant for yourself.
Yeah. No, I definitely do. I do remember like the build-up and all that sort of stuff. And I remember I was like, oddly sort of calm. Like, I didn't really think it was much. I just thought it was another game. And sort of managed to sort of kick the first goal, even though we're down by 40 points in the first 5 minutes, and gave it the world. And
did you celebrate?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And
was it something that boys were talking about before you played?
No.
Who's going to kick the first one, boys?
No, I can't even remember if we were or not. Like, that's the thing. Like, I think about it now, it was a bit of a blur. Like, I can't really remember the warm-up or the chats or anything like that, but I just remember being out in the field.
Yeah.
And, so it was a pretty unreal experience. Like, the first game was at the Gabba and against Carlton, and then we lost by 80 or something like that. But it was pretty cool.
Did you get a car or a prize or something for kicking the first goal? Surely.
Extra space in the dongers.
Yeah, exactly.
Extra meal.
Didn't get anything, actually.
Oh, rough.
Which is a bit stiff.
Yeah. What are your memories of those early first years? You weren't getting the results on the field at all, but we've sort of spoken about, like, but what are your memories of as a team, like rocking up and a lot of losses?
Yeah. No, I think like we were like I said, like with the TAC Cup and VFL, that group, there was still a fairly solid group of boys that were together in that. So we were still a very strong group. It's just like trying to put it all together on the field, and being consistent over 4 quarters was the biggest thing. And it was hard. Like, we went, I think, 14 or 15 games we lost straight or something like that.
Yeah.
So, like, that's pretty grim. I remember, like, last year with us boys, like we lost 5 in a row, and it's like, we're all right, boys. Don't you worry, I've been 15-0. We'll be right. Don't you worry. Let's go. Come on.
5, boys. That's nothing. Nothing. Try training in a donger and get 15 on the trot.
But, like, that was it. Like, we sort of stuck together. And as you do as a football club, you get around each other. You're around each other, and especially because there was a lot of interstate boys as well. So everyone did a lot of stuff together. But you sort of trying to reinvent the wheel when you sort of when you're at that point where you're like, oh, what do we fucking do now? Like, what can we do? Like, how do we do this? How do we train this? And like, from what I can remember, I still think it was still a great place to go and train and sort of try and get better. But yeah, it's hard when you're not getting those results.
Do you remember hearing the news that Adelaide would be signing with the team? Was that like a big boost for everyone? Because he was like, prime Adelaide at that time.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't really remember. I mean, I'm not a footy head, so like I was like, all right, sweet. Yeah. I can't really remember like saying, oh shit, yeah, we got Gaz. But like I'm probably sure probably did, like it's best. I still don't watch a lot of football. I didn't watch football growing up either. So I was like, Gaz is the best in the world, and some of the shit he would do on a football field.
Bit of delivery to you.
Yeah, you'd be like, how the fuck did he do that? And like, it's just, he's amazing to play with. Yeah, to see the way he sees the game and what he was able to do in a team that was sort of, heavily undermanned, and him sort of carrying a fair bit. Like, he had more touches than we scored sometimes.
Fact,
actual fact.
Talking about how he sees the game. That improved slightly for you when you discovered that you actually couldn't see.
Yeah.
Were you playing half blind as a junior and then a little bit as the AFL?
So my first game with Carlton, I didn't have contacts in.
Right. And what did that mean? Like,
everything was like, I remember like before that, 2010 and that, I was trialing contacts. I didn't like them and I just couldn't get used to them. And then I'd just play without them. And it wasn't until I found someone that actually sort of could help me a lot better, not just give me contacts and say, here you go. But like I'd be at the end of, like up the end in the forward line, and I'd be looking, like, all right, who the fuck's got the ball there? All right, who we got? And then the ball would come in, and I didn't realise how blind I was until I put like the proper set of contacts in, and I was like, holy shit. So are you serious? And then I'd forget them. I'd forget them and train. We'd have a night training, and I wouldn't be able to see the ball till it was here.
Really?
So I just had laser surgery, and I don't wear any contacts anymore. It's fucking amazing.
What's that like? Like you can see?
I can see. Like I wouldn't be both your faces would be blurry if I didn't have my contact. If I didn't have the laser surgery and didn't have contacts in.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and so I've had the laser surgery done maybe 4.5 weeks ago. 10 days of sort of just rest and wearing sunnies inside and shit.
Wow.
It was pretty uncomfortable, but I'd sit through it every day just so I can see.
So you've obviously trained since you've had the laser surgery. Is it different to contacts? Like, is it better than contacts?
Oh yeah, I think it is better than contacts for sure.
Yeah.
It's my eyes aren't as dry, and because I only wear dailies, but still like for some reason you accidentally sleep in them, so you have a night out and drink, and then you go pass out in bed. Accidentally sleep in them.
Oops.
And then you wake up the next day and your eyes are irritated, and then you just got to take them out and slap another pair in. Then you sort of, it's not nice.
Yeah.
But,
happens in basketball where guys get them knocked out, like not knocked out of the eye, but they fall out and they're like trying to find them on the court and stuff. Did you lose them on the pit?
Yeah. I'd always bring a sort of set, because you'd always get someone to stick a finger in your eye or something like that, and then I'd have to work out and like just touch my eye and see if it was still in there.
Wow.
And then I'd be like, right, I've got to go off, and then run in the change room, jam another one in, then run back out. So
now people know you as a forward, right? Charlie Dixon, forward. Close to a Coleman medal in 2020, All Australian as forward, but you played as a backman for Gold Coast, didn't you?
I did. 2012, I was in the back line for a few games.
Now, this is BackChat. Look, we don't have a lot of forwards on it. We do have forwards in it, but I always try to find, have you spent time as a backman? And you have.
I have, yes.
Did you like it?
I've never been as nervous as I was as a backman going into games. Like, I used to shit myself. Like,
welcome, mate. That's what fucking career as a backman. Like, every fucking week, you're like, oh, here we go. This bloke's going to kick 100 on me. Perfect.
I remember, I think my first game that I did play back, they put me on Hawkins.
Oh,
and I was like, are you sure? It's like, are you sure? And he kicked 2 goals straight away. And then they moved someone else on him, and then I just played loose. They started taking intercept marks, and I was playing back when Carmichael kicked winning goal on Cairns.
Remember that?
So I was
after
playing
Siren?
After Siren, yep. So I was playing down back then, and at my home ground, it was like slippery as, but I was loving it.
Yeah.
Down back, just wasn't really playing on anyone.
See, like this bloke knows now. There's some forwards who never experienced as a backman.
Yeah.
They just don't get it. That when you rock up and it's raining as a backman, you're like, you beauty. Forwards are going to have an absolute shocker today. Just be near my man and just slap his arms around.
Exactly right. Yeah. So, no, and then I think it might have been that another game where I started in the back line. I was taking a few marks, and then they moved me forward again, and then I didn't move back from there. So I kicked a few goals as soon as I moved forward, and then they're like, right, you can stay there.
You kicked 7 in a game for Gold Coast?
I did, yes. Yep.
What's that like?
It was nice. Did
you feel like you were getting kicked 50?
No.
Like, did you kick something early and then you're like, if I kick 4 in this first, I might kick 16 goals here?
Yeah, well, it just sort of like, you have those days where you just like, it's on, and like I kicked 7-2. So like I had 9 shots.
There's quite a few shots. It's a bad day for the
Yeah. And but like, it was and the ball was coming in, and like it was just lacing me out. There would have been maybe 2 or 3 maybe 2 contested marks. The rest were just like a nice lead up and all that sort of stuff. But I don't get too many of them anymore.
Do you remember playing forward on Scoey?
Playing forward, yeah.
Any memories of? I mean, you've had some bags kicked on you in the past.
Oh yeah, I don't think I've kicked any bags on him though.
No, I've seen Charlie kick a bag, but it was on Tommy Brass. And I was just making sure I was up the ground on Toddy Marshall or someone. My memories of playing on Charlie, I just always used to think like, fuck, this guy's big. Like this is fucked. Like it's same as Hawkins. Like same as these guys. Like I've never been this big guy. Like the most I ever played at was like 95 kilos, 96 kilos. 100 when I was in the hub because I'd had a bit too much to eat, too many beers. But like I used to just think like this guy's massive. That's what I used to think.
Yeah.
Charlie obviously just Scully, no memories whatsoever.
No.
Like, see you later.
I remember if the ball hit the ground, he was very good below his knees, and he would always show the ball to me and go around me. I remember one day I'd got him, but then it was wet, and I grabbed him and he fended me off, and like my feet were planted in the ground, and because it was so wet, my feet just moved backwards, and he got around me.
Huge.
I was like, what the fuck? That's probably one of the main.
Yeah. I reckon I lipped off at you as well. Yeah. I used to like playing on Charlie because I could tell it was a good bloke. Some forwards, right, if you lip off, it gets real personal.
Yeah.
Like, oh. And he used to get angry. He had white line fever, as did I, which is, I used to like those guys because most guys with white line fever off the field are very good blokes.
Yeah.
But you see this glint in the eye. It's like, we're going to have a battle here. But then after the game, shake hands, have a laugh. Tom Hawkins was he's exactly the same.
Yeah.
When he knocked me out, I found that out. real. You never punched me before, Charlie, so that's good.
Yeah.
We'll get to Port Adelaide in a little bit, but the back end of Gold Coast getting traded, 2015. What's that like, being traded as a player and talking managers and contracts?
Yeah, no, it's pretty. It's a pretty daunting sort of thing. Once you sort of work out that you want to go, and you sort of tell, like, hardest thing is telling your teammates that you sort of move and you're going to go somewhere else to try something different for your career is quite hard, especially, you know, I suppose everyone who's sort of been with a certain group for about 5-7 years, and then telling them like, oh, I'm going somewhere else. That was very hard. I remember doing it. It was in Sydney after a Sydney game. And not a nice thing to do, and you just sort of, because you love the boys and still do, but for me it was the best move for me to sort of get out of Gold Coast and see what a football culture's like, and it's definitely an eye opener. It sort of took me a fair bit to get used, but I was pretty nervous about sort of, because my trade didn't get done until quite late, so I remember I was just sitting on the Gold Coast and just sort of twiddling my thumbs and waiting to see what I'm going to do, and then it sort of finally went through, and then I went down. I went down for 5 days, and I stayed at West Lakes, and I went through the club and all this sort of shit. And I remember I hated it.
Really?
I was like, because I was living 100 metres from the beach on the Gold Coast. Like, I was in Miami in between, and it's quiet, and I was like 100 metres from the beach, little beach shack, and I was like, this place is amazing. And then I go down there, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? And then I'm like, I knew Ken. Like, that's all I knew.
He was a coach at Gold Coast.
Yeah. And then Cracker as well. So I knew those boys. Then Ken and Crack. That was it. And I was like, moving to a completely new state, no family, no nothing down there. And I was like, oh shit, I'm in it now. And anyway, so I rented a house in like near Goodwood. So I was like near the city sort of thing. I was looking to buy down the beach, but didn't want to do it. And beach is only good for like 3 months of the year in SA, so I was like, no, I don't want to do that. But got a place, and I just felt like it was my first ever winter, and I was like, it felt like it was fucking raining every day. It's like 5 degrees, and I'm going my 5 years, and I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'm going back to the Gold Coast.
Really?
And but I've fallen in love with the place, and I don't want to move. I don't want to leave. And so
you live there after you?
After I finished footy, definitely.
Really?
I've got.
It's a big flip.
Yeah, it is, and like, I think it's my pace. Like, I just bought a place out in the hills near Stirling, and I got about 4 acres there, and no, everyone leaves me alone. I'm out there by myself.
So you're feeding your cows?
They're next doors, but I'm building a house up there. So once I do that, I'll get a bit of wildlife and whatnot, and hopefully buy some more land off the neighbour behind me. But yeah, I just love it. It's my pace. The car scene's pretty massive there. So yeah, I love it.
Was it always Port in that trade period, that trade time?
I think I had it. Well, Port came in late. There was Brisbane and I think Freo even was sort of talking a little bit, and then there might have been Melbourne, one of the Melbourne clubs or something like that. But when sort of Kenny came through, it was sort of easy from there, really. But
do you think? Now, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but 2015, you get traded at the end. Do you think during that year, potentially some of your pre-game rituals, maybe, sign your contract out the door? A couple of glasses of red before games, mate?
That's pretty funny because, I was doing that before games and going out and kicking kicking goals and doing all right. So I thought I was like, well, I've got to keep doing it.
So for people who don't know, I mean, I won't throw under the bus too much, but you were suspended in 2015 for a game for breaking the Gold Coast drinking rules.
Yep.
It's, by the sound of things, like a bill came through to the club a couple of weeks post it happening. Maybe a bottle of wine.
You're ordering it from the hotel.
Yeah, so
come on, man.
No, I wasn't even in my room. It was in Harley Bennell's room. But like I'd been having like a glass of red wine just with dinner, and that sort of like take the edge off things, and then that was it. And I'd never pay my room bill, still don't. You'd think I'd learn, right? But anyway, so we had a drinking ban in place, and I thought I'd spoken to sort of one of the leaders and said that it was okay, and apparently it wasn't. And so then that came back to the club, and they jumped on Harley, and then he just said, "No, that wasn't me. It was Chuck." And I was like, "Yeah, it was me," because that's what I've been doing for the last 6 weeks, and it actually helps me. And then they're like, "Bullshit! No, can't do that. You're done." And so that was that.
Copped you whack.
Yeah.
I mean, that was 8 years ago now.
Long time.
You feel like you've, now especially in Adelaide, feel like you've matured a bit. You're still copping a red before games?
No, definitely.
Good wine region.
You know what?
Not really.
You know what he's doing tomorrow? You know what he's doing tomorrow? He's playing a game of footy tomorrow. Sponsored by a whiskey company in here. And a beer company,
well, there you go. Take the edge off for sure.
Do you feel like, jokes aside, do you feel like you've matured?
Yeah. I mean, like as a young kid, no one can really tell you what to do. I mean, I was probably the worst for that, really. I always thought I knew sort of best, and you go through stages where you're an arrogant little prick, and there's definitely a lot of things that I should have changed and didn't until I sort of got a reality check, and that's sort of why I got the reality check, is because I thought I was better than what I was, and you need a clip, and that's sort of why I have a really good relationship with Kenny. It's because if I'm being an arsehole, he'll let me know pretty quickly too. So, and then it's like, yeah, all right, you're right. Sorry. All right, I'll do better. And it's like, and I don't think we do that enough these days. I think we got to watch out for people's feelings too much, where really we're here for a job, and the job is pretty high intensity. And if it's, there's players and people that aren't sort of doing what they need to be doing, we sort of dance around the fact.
Ken Hinkley from afar looks like a terrific coach. It sounds like you've got a close relationship with him, but as a coach, what's he like? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the way he sort of had to adapt his coaching is from like when he started with, I remember talking to the Port Boys when he started, it was like, there was no fun. We're here to work. This is the way it's going. This is it. No drinking, no nothing. And then he's wound it back, and he's just adapted to the way the game's changed, because it changes every year. Like whether we like it or not, it's a different game completely from even when I started to where it is now. And but he's unreal. He's a genuine great human being. And he's always looking out for the human being before the footballer. So that's what I love about him.
What was the biggest change that you noticed from Gold Coast to Port when you got there?
It'd just be the history of the club. Or like considering like we were creating our own history at the Gold Coast, and then going to one of the oldest football clubs in Australia, and the premierships and stuff they won in the SNFL, and just the fan base and everything was an absolute eye opener for me. Like I'd never experienced anything like that, because I was sort of like the new toy in town, and it was like just as much people love me, they hate me as well. So which I'm totally fine with, because that's just the way I play as well. I'm the sort of easy to hate sort of bloke who I think is emotional and sort of. I was going to
say, you look emotional, which I like.
I'm a very emotional person. That's from my dad, and so thanks, mate.
Thank you, Dad.
But it's and just walking down the street, I'd get someone saying "G'day" and all this sort of stuff, and then I'd get someone drive past and go, "Fuck you, Charlie Dixon." All in a span of half an hour when I first moved to the club, like all that shit would happen, and I was just like, I'm just walking my dog, like Christ, and that like nothing like that would happen to us on the Gold Coast. So that would be probably the biggest change for me, was being a football, like knowing that what this is what football's like in SA.
You've had some injuries through your career, right? Like you've played in the league since 2011, 2023 now. You played 180 games. You've missed some footy. Rather than talk about your body, like how's the mind been with dealing with injury, being in rehab, being like buttering up every time? Like it must be tough.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it is a pretty tough thing anyway. Like for anyone to go through any sort of injury, but I mean, like my stuff was sort of more high impact than sort of soft tissue, so it was just probably on the way that I play and having glass ankles as well. Sort of doesn't hurt.
I feel like I know you've had heaps of ankle injuries.
Yeah, so last year I had 2 on my left, and so what did I have? So I've had 6 on my left, like clean outs and sort of surgeries, and then 5 on my right.
Wow.
So because I broke my right,
yeah,
and that was against you guys.
Yeah, remember.
And but yeah, I mean it is a hard place to go, and like nearly most of my big ankle ones, I've sort of gone from, all right, you'll be right in this amount of time, and then you get to that time and you're not, and like they're scanning your leg and looking at it, and they're going, you should be fine. And I'm like, well, I'm fucking not. I'm like, why aren't I? Like, you know, and then I'd run one day and I'd feel fine. I'd wake up the next day, I couldn't walk. And then I'd be like, there's something wrong. And they're like, well, the scan doesn't show everything. It doesn't show us that there's anything wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, well, why can't I run? Why can't I do this? And then you just sort of like, you question everything. You're like, well, am I done then?
Yeah.
Do I just pack it up? Like, why can't I do this? And then they'd go in and have a look, and then they'll be like, oh, we've sort of missed this thing. There's a flap under here, that's sort of bone on bone, and that'll be your thing. And like that would just sort of be, and then you'd be another 4 or 5 weeks from that surgery, and then you do it all again, and you're just sort of fighting mainly against yourself, really. That's the hardest part, is staying sort of positive and not letting yourself sort of slip in there, which is easier said than done. And I definitely didn't handle the break of my leg very well, and to the point where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do it. Just
think about giving up footy.
Yeah, and just everything really. I was just completely done with it, and that was sort of with personal stuff that I had going on as well. I was just felt really defeated. So, and then that escalates onto everything else that's not working for you, and then you become a bit of an arsehole around the football club because nothing's working for you, nothing's right. Everyone's playing footy, but you're not, and then you sort of just become very isolated, and then sort of thinking about yourself. And then the best thing I did for this injury that I had last year, when it was sort of like a month out from footy, and then I did my left ankle. It was just sort of making sure I'm around the club and being a good person around the club, and that helped me so much because the lads are always keen to see you, keen to see how you're doing, and they get around you a lot more, and that's what a good team does. Teammates and friends, they'll sort of help you massively get through that sort of stuff, because otherwise I isolated myself big time when I broke my leg.
Did you have like a turning point or someone in particular, or speak to some guys about, you know, finding it mentally difficult? And some people have defining moments where they're like, yeah, you know, this really helped me, or talking to this person, or hearing this story, or do you have anything like that?
Probably. I think I had, I remember I was back playing footy, and I was just not in a good headspace to start with. And we played Richmond, we lost. And then I went out that night with a bunch of mates, and then came back to the football club. Yeah, came back to Adelaide, and then coaches were like, "Look, you're not in the right headspace. You're not playing this week." And I sort of lost it. I said, "Well, it's the fucking only thing I've got. Why let me play football?" And then I said, "Am I playing twos?" And they're like, "No." And I said, "You got to let me play twos. You got to let me play twos." I'm like, "Can't do it. Otherwise, I'll be a fucking mess." So then they let me. So then I played twos, and I remember I was just driving down. We're playing south, so I was driving down the freeway down there. I was just bawling my eyes out because I didn't know what was wrong with me, and I was just had like no control over myself. Pulled over on the side of the road, and I was just like, "Fuck, what am I doing? I can't do this." I was like, I'm so over it. I was emotional. I just couldn't do it. And then I remember just sort of looking at my phone, and I saw my brother's kids, and I was like, all right, well, let's just let's just get through today, and then we'll go from there, and then just focus on being a good person, a good teammate, and sort of helping your other teammates out. Take it away from yourself, and just sort of focus on other people that's in your life that mean a lot to you. And that was my turning point. And that's what helped me, was focusing on other people and my brother's kids and my teammates that needed my help, and not worrying about myself once. And that was my turning point.
Do you remember playing that game?
Yeah. I was just the loudest person out there. I had to be the loudest person because the noises in my head were nearly as loud.
Right.
So,
yeah, it's great insight, mate. We appreciate you sharing it. I think there'll be a lot of people listening that would feel the same way. And I think people that play footy, or you see guys playing senior footy or AFL, or, I don't know, musicians or people you look up to, and you think maybe sometimes they don't go through hard stuff mentally. So I think sharing it's really important, and we appreciate it. If we get back into footy, a couple of big moments, Port Adelaide I want to talk to you about. 2017, which I think you'll be able to tell me. So 2017, 2018, West Coast v Port Adelaide, a couple of big games. 2017, did Luke Shuey duck?
Oh, absolutely.
I think we had him on here, and I think he said he did.
Oh yeah, I did. Of course I did.
Hey, if it's there, you got to
be done, right?
If
that was what Port Boy and he did it. You'd
exactly.
Be like, congratulations.
Well exactly. When you're on the other end of it, it's fucking bullshit.
Yeah. So 2017 it was a final. It was an elimination final.
Elimination final. Yep.
Regular time, 40 seconds to go. I just watched the replay. Jared Polek coming out of the middle, kicks to a one-on-one. Yourself and Eric McKenzie, top of the goal square. And you'd let up. It was a good lead, and it was a bad kick. Probably why Jared found himself at North Melbourne, probably not too long after this. But you just got out of position. Eric McKenzie went back, but he dropped it, and it was a foot race, and the scores are level. 40 seconds left. You're running pretty much at the goals, and his nickname's Easy. So Easy picked it up and started beelining for the post. And you look the point post, and you've just given him a massive whack. And he got his hands in front of the point post and smacked it into the point post.
Into the point post,
Didn't score. They held it together, West Coast, for 30 seconds, went to extra time. And do you remember that Eric McKenzie moment?
Absolutely.
Because in WA, like that's Eric McKenzie is remembered for that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that. And you can't expect an umpire to call a deliberate in that time of the game as well. But it's like, it was like the same thing. I had separation on the lead and then had to come back, and then we were both racing for it. And I remember I was hoping to push him because he just put hands on the ball, and I was hoping to push him and then I could pick the ball up. But he just had like fingertips on it and just moved it to the point post, and I could not believe it. And I was like, looking around like, what the fuck?
That's what you did. You looked around like, I don't know what just happened.
Deliberate.
Something.
Yes. So, and then, I suppose the rest is history. Went into overtime. I remember the overtime siren went, and I was like, what the fuck? And then Gov was running around going, yeah. I was like, fucking draw, mate.
So he celebrated when it was a draw?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, that is brilliant. That is McGovern 101, mate.
No clue what the score is.
Yeah, and then, the overtime came, and then the Shuey goal. That's so clutch. I mean, you can't – that's just unbelievable to be able to sort of reset yourself and go back and do that.
Yeah.
Were you in that sort of group of people on the mark? Because there was about 15 guys jumping up and down.
No,
I was. What were you doing? What were you doing?
I don't know. I think I might even be off.
Oh.
I think.
Get you in the goal square, surely.
Yeah, I don't know what I was doing. Just couldn't believe it.
Still with Eric McKenzie, just trying to figure it out.
Well, that's it. I had my fair chances of ice in that game, but it sort of didn't work out for me either.
You kicked 6 behinds in that game, didn't you?
Yeah, 3-6.
I mean, sometimes you win them, sometimes you lose them.
Well, that's
how it goes.
Before we go to another bad one from 2018,
Perfect.
We'll highlight a good one in 2017. You outscored the Gold Coast Suns by yourself. You kicked 24 points total, and they kicked 20.
That's a good game by
I think it was 135 to 20, and you kicked 4 goals, 3, I think.
That was like the last game of the season or something.
It was.
I think. Yeah.
That must be good to do that against your team.
It is and it isn't, I suppose. But no, and it's always a good day when you're kicking goals.
So Luke Shuey kicks a goal, 2017. Yep. You think that's the last time we'll get done after the siren. Definitely the last time we get done after the siren by West Coast.
Yeah.
2018. Now, you just said, and I do remember this, I didn't play in either of these games, by the way, which I'm pretty flat about. Shock, though. Dropped. 2018, you were having a good game. Big battle with Tom Barras, I think, and you had an incident in the last quarter.
Last quarter.
It was the last quarter. No, it was the last quarter.
Yeah, it may have been, yeah.
And you broke your leg.
Yeah,
broke your leg.
It was Jay Wingo and kicked the ball, and like as I was sort of running back, but it was a sort of sky ball, so then we've both had to come back, and Tommy was in front of me, so then I've like jumped to spoil it, and like sort of got my leg caught underneath me, and my foot was facing backwards, and I landed down. So foot like I'm sitting like this, my foot was sort of facing backwards, and sort of I just heard a big crack. And I had a spiral fracture in the thing. But I just thought I'd rolled my ankle because
you walked off.
Sort of walked off, and I was standing on the bench going like trying to get some like weight through it and all this sort of stuff.
It was a rolled ankle.
Thought because I roll my ankles all the time.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd just like it actually dislocated, then came back in. But I actually thought that's all I did. So I was like, okay, well maybe I'm all right. And then so I'm standing on the bench, and then I'm like, no, I'm not all right. And then and then went to the hospital, and they said you've got a break. So
so McGovern kicks. You remember McGovern kicking the surely you boys are like, what the fuck's going on here? Like,
Could not believe it.
How do you write that?
Oh, like we had the ball. Like I think there was like 40 seconds to go or something. Yeah. We had the ball along the arc.
Yeah.
If we just had fucked around with it, we would have won the game. But we've sort of kicked it in.
Turnover.
Goal. Bang bang. Gubs gone into the forward line.
There was a goal because it was from a centre bounce.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, it was, wasn't it?
So you guys had the ball. You were up by more than a goal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then turnover, goal, JK or something like that. And then centre bounce and McGovern went forward. So Gov's spoken about it here on this podcast. Sort of, he remembers going down there, and Ebo was down there, a former teammate of mine.
Yeah. And
Ebo was being a bit of Ebo, and he was going, "Oh, who's been on this? Who's doing this?" And Gov was like, "If we get this clearance, no one's on. Like, they haven't figured out who's on me." And
I remember we were standing on the bench, and fucking someone get on him.
Yes.
Someone.
Yes.
And then sort of Ebo just looking around, and as the ball's come in, he's sort of come back, and then he's marked it, and he's kicked a mongrel punt.
Yes.
And it's gone through.
Shin.
And it's like, fuck you.
Do you speak about that in the room after? You sort of, what's the reaction?
I was straight in the ambulance when I was out of there. I was pretty glad to be out of there.
On the whistle.
On the whistle, yeah. Wasn't even that much pain, but still give me the whistle.
A few more questions on Port Adelaide. Then I want to talk about Chuck's Garage, driving with Dixon.
Yep.
Loving the content you're putting out over there. And then we're going to do a very, very special segment down. Tell you what, I know Charlie's here for it. You guys, Port Adelaide, have been highly successful side over the last 5 years. You until last year, you won the most games. If you put a ladder together of most games won, you're ahead of Geelong, again ahead of Richmond, ahead of these sides of the winning flags. But you guys haven't been able to do that. You haven't been able to perform in finals. What's the, I don't know, after going back-to-back prelims, what is it like in the group? Is it we want to go better? Are you strive? You know, what is the feeling inside the group after doing that sort of stuff?
Oh, it's pretty heartbreaking sort of stuff. But we've been thereabouts for, like you said, for 5 years, and we know we're thereabouts to be the top side and to beat all the top sides. It's just being able to string it together properly and doing it for longer is the main thing. And 2 prelims, it's heartbreaking stuff. I mean, the one against the Dogs was pretty disappointing, but it's hard. Like the whole group, like everyone hates it. Everyone, that feeling it's like a pit in your stomach sort of thing. Like we were that close to a grand final, and I've never tasted anything like that. So, and a lot of boys haven't. So, it sort of you get hungry. Definitely hungrier to go back and do it again, but I don't know. It's hard to explain. Because we are thereabouts, and it's just being able to keep everyone on the park and making it sort of work. But
does what happened last year, losing games, off the bat, a lot of expectation again because you've been such a good side. Do you think it? Not the breaking the back type areas, but is it the weight of expectation perhaps that you go and underperform? Last year you underperformed, right? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, we were disappointing for sure. And but we were still thereabouts because the close games, Collingwood have won those close games and we lost those close games. Yeah. And then if we win those, we were still in with a chance. And sometimes that's the way it goes. But definitely very disappointing last year. But I don't know. It's I try not to analyse it too much because otherwise it'll do me head in, and I'm a pretty easygoing guy and I'm a simple man, but I just try to move a day at a time in the football world. Otherwise, it's too hard.
What's Junior Rowley been buzzing around at your feet like? He's a gun.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Gun footy player.
He's just pops up and he uses the ball so well.
Yeah.
And he delivers the ball so well. I mean, I've sort of had a little bit interrupted sort of pre-season, but when we've played a little bit together, it looks like fun.
Yeah.
So.
I remember the boys playing with him. I never saw him as in the back line too much, but he's a smart
very,
player.
very smart
guy.
Yeah.
Footy guy. Now, I just want to show you this one, see your reaction. Got to be honest, it blew me away a little bit, Charlie. What is going on here, mate? What are we looking at here? Boy, oh boy, can we see that one there, Damo? Holy shit. You are just there's a music clip I used to watch with a mate of mine, Ryan Davis, who's been on this podcast. He's played for Southport Sharks. Yeah. Good man, Davo, and he's at the Gold Coast Suns as well.
Gold Coast, yeah.
So there's this video of the Viking, right? And he it's like to techno music, and he's gathering up this posse of people, and he's marching through, and he has a beard, and he's tatted, and he's ripped within an inch of his life. That is you, and you're on an AFL football field. What happened here? Where is your jumper?
It was I remember Sutton was playing on me, and I handballed the ball, and I could feel him. He's trying to take me to ground, and which he did, and then I just sort of landed on him
the people's elbow,
just a sort of sly elbow, which is a bit out of character, and and I just landed on him, and I was and then there was a bit of a scuffle, and then it sort of ended, and then as I was going to get up, Shield come over and just sort of whacked me again, put me over, and then I've ended up sort of grabbing him, flipping him over, and then being on top of him, and someone's grabbing on top of my shirt, and and I'm getting pulled one way, and then that going that way, and then it's sort of just gone straight off me, and I'm looking around like this.
The crowd was going wild.
Oh, they lost
right
it
in front of them.
And so I just walked off, and it was pretty wild. And I remember Chad coming up to me and he goes, "That'd be one of your best moments in AFL footy, right?" He's a runner.
Chad Corns.
Chad Corns, yeah.
That's great.
Because he had his shirt ripped off in a game, and they were trying to get him off, but he stayed on for longer.
I remember that.
Running around.
Remember that.
Yeah, just absolutely loved when he was playing for GWS.
That's right.
He was loving himself sick.
That's very
usually the jumper gets ripped at that point, but yours is in great nick. It just came off.
Just came off.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I'd ever had a rig like that in AFL, I might have played 300 games. Mate, I want to talk to you about what you're doing like us. Right? Yep. We do BackChat, we do content, there's all sorts of shit all over socials.
Yep.
Doing a bit of a prep for having a chat to you. And, mate, Chuck's Garage and driving with Dixon. Tell us about that. That stuff looks cool.
Yeah, no, it's basically a passion of mine. I've always sort of loved cars and just mucking around with them, driving them, racing them, doing whatever. And I had a couple of cars on the Gold Coast, and then they were just sort of hobby things. I wasn't doing anything. Then I moved down here. I bought one car, and I decided, I watch a heap of people on YouTube, so I was like, well, maybe I'll give the YouTube a go. And I think it might have been 17 or 18. I sort of gave it a crack, and I had bought my silver Monaro, and then I sort of pulled that apart and sort of made it into a bit of a race car and drag car sort of thing. And then I've just acquired a few cars over the time, and I've sort of done a couple of different segments in the channel, which is Chuck's Garage, which is I've got a sort of warehouse that I've sort of turned into
Looks great.
a bit of a content space and for myself, and I'm sort of hopefully turning it into a studio where people can bring their cars and sort of get professional photos done, or in front of the Chuck's Garage mural or on the big cyclorama wall that I've sort of building for the last 4 or 5 months. But for the Chuck's Garage segment, I get just random people who've got cool cars that come in. It can be anything, and tell me the story about why they built that car, why they have that car, and if there's any future plans. And I used to have a big mural with a tyre on it where the guests I'd get a Polaroid and then they'd sign the wall, which I'm getting that made up so I can pull it down and move it. So when I move out of there and go to somewhere else, I can sort of take that with me. So still waiting on that. And then I also say, if you want to do a burnout, You can do a burnout out the front of the shed. So out the front of the shed's like a little car park area. And, so most of the time I do a burnout, unless it's like a supercar. I had a mate who had a $2.3 million Lexus.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, you don't have to do a burnout, but he was adamant. He was going to try to do a burnout, and there was smoke coming out of this thing.
Don't tell me he blew it up.
Oh, no.
I was like, oh my God. And then, but that thing was amazing. But
Was that the one of 500 car? There was only like 500 of them. Made or something?
yeah, that's the yellow. It was a yellow or orange. He calls it. It's definitely yellow.
Yeah, it's yellow.
But it's a Lexus LFA. Yeah, they only made like 500, and he actually went over and because they hand build them in Japan, and he went over and watched them build it, and he said, I never heard it before, and they threw him in one of the cars and they just said, rev it as hard as you can. But like that was wild. Like he knew so much about that, but I just love doing that sort of stuff and seeing what other people have built and their crazy ideas and what they want to do in the future as well. And no, it's starting to go all right. I just got to be consistent. Had a couple of Harleys on there as well, so which is awesome. I just want outrageous stuff. I'm trying to get a truck, like an old school Kenworth truck that's going to come through and
we want the BackChat bus.
Yeah, we want a BackChat bus.
Very early on when we started doing this, we'd be like, how fucking good would it be for, like, even if we don't have it forever, but just have the BackChat bus, roll into Adelaide, pull it up the park at the front of Port Adelaide, get Charlie on for an hour, get Boki on for an hour, get Leo, just to get all the boys on. See you later, boys, we're off. So maybe if we do that, pull into Chuck's garage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mate,
could you just build it for us?
For listeners that don't have visual on this or you haven't looked it up, basically we saw it, Dan. I was like, that's pretty much what we need for BackChat.
Yeah,
Charlie's dominating. Yeah. It looks sick, mate. Doing really well. So if you love your cars, how can they find you? Over at YouTube?
Yeah, so I've got an Instagram, Driving with Dixon, Facebook, Driving with Dixon, and then same thing on YouTube, Driving with Dixon. The actual Driving with Dixon name came from, it's like a bit of a podcast in a car. I've only done 2 apps because it's hard to find sort of to get people on through the footy season. So I'm going to try. I've been trying to get Koshy on and it's just trying to work out his time. So basically I picked someone up in a car, I did Travis Spoke, picked him up in a Ferrari Lusso, and we just went for a cruise. It was about an hour and a half, or 30 minutes or something like that. And then I did Chad Corns as well, picked him up, and my mate's got this wild F-150 truck, new one, and that sort of he jumps over shit with it.
It's like Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld does this, right?
Yeah, he does it similar. Yeah, same sort of thing. But they have a coffee and all that sort of stuff. But it's just a genuine chit chat about the first car crash or whatever like that, and just have a chat. Yeah, that's good. It's real. Cool. Yeah.
Last question, Dan. I want you to ask this.
Yeah. How close were you to playing in the West Coast Waffle side?
The West Coast Waffle
side. We found an article. Port Adelaide.
Was that last year?
Contacts the West Coast Eagles.
It was less than a year ago.
To see if Charlie Dixon can play in the West Coast Waffle side. What the fuck was going on there?
I remember.
You had a buy.
We had a buy. So that's right. We did.
And your Sample side had
a buy as well.
So they wanted you to get some state league.
Yeah, I had no idea about it though. And I remember Kenny coming to me. I think we had training, and someone rang me and said, "You play in the Waffle?" Someone from over here, you play in the Waffle? And I said, "What?" No, we're playing for Port Adelaide. And then Kenny goes, "Oh yeah, no, we floated it." And I'm like, "Wouldn't you want to ask me?"
That is hilarious.
So that was something that was apparently happening under the cards.
Mate, it's been a great chat.
I've got one more question before Schofield.
Oh my God.
Here we go.
Okay, better be fucking
There's a certain name that comes up on this podcast a fair amount. Usually there's some funny stories about him. He's since moved to Port. Scott Lysaght. You got any good Scott Lysaght stories for us? Because there's been a plenty during his time at West Coast.
Yeah. So Scoot, he's invited us to go fishing with him in his bar crusher, and we went. So we rocked up to his place. I went to Cluz's, Tom Cleary's first. We got sort of Eskies or whatever, and we went to Scoots, and he's got all the boat ready, and go there and fuel up. Then we get in the boat, and we start driving out, and we're sort of 10 minutes out, and he's like I'm standing next to him. He leans to me and he goes, "Imagine if we forgot the boat, eh? That'd be pretty funny." And I was like, "Yeah, no, it would be pretty funny." And then we're driving, and then he doesn't look anywhere else, but he just sort of starts backing off the throttle. And I'm like looking at him, I'm like, "What are you doing, mate?" He's like, I forgot the boat. 10 minutes out. I'm like, I said, shut up, mate. You have not. And he goes, yeah, no, I forgot the boat. So we wheeled around, and then him trying to dock his boat on the thing. There was like probably about 5 or 6 people just watching us, and like there was 5 or 6 of us like footballers in this boat, and the whole thing's all over the place. It was an absolute shit show. But and then he just rammed it into the bank, and then we just grabbed hold of it, and run up and get some bait. And it's like the boys every time they go out for a fish, it's called the show. So welcome back to the show, lads.
Wow,
because it's a fucking shit show.
I mean, does that surprise anybody? No. This is from the man who spent 24 hours after the grand final in his footy boots because he lost his medal, lost his jumper. You know, I heard this story.
No.
Oh, mate, I can't do it to you. Just listen to this. I'll send it to you on socials. Yeah. There's a decent story about Scott Lysaght post. He was best on in the grand final while he was getting traded from the football club as well to the Port Adelaide. Mate, we are up to social media. It's getting hot in here. We need if anyone's listening, they want to sponsor us with an air conditioner. I really appreciate it. We give calls out for it all the time. Still haven't had anyone.
It needs to be a silent one.
Well, I'm sweating. Yeah. Well, you know what? We're going to get Charlie out of here. He's got a game to play tomorrow, so we do appreciate him coming on. Social media, not social.
Yep.
Social.
Okay.
So Chuck's Garage, driving with Dixon, similar. Mm-hmm. Not social, social. Where we get the people to ask you the questions. You sit Dan and I. This is what the people want to know. All right. So let's get into it. Rowan M. Fitch.
Ask him who was the player that got the all clear ticked off to ride motorbikes to the club.
That sounded like a laugh that they haven't had it all ticked off yet. What motorbikes?
So I assume there's a rule you're not allowed to ride motorbikes.
Yeah, there's rules on dirt bikes and Harleys and stuff like that. But I think it's that's Ken's pretty good. He said he understands the player's got to live, and I live in the hills, and if I'm running late, I sort of jump on the Harley and ride down.
Do you?
Very good.
You're on a Harley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Chris Marston used to ride one of those. He had to park it around behind the club and walk in. So I just walked to the club, caught the train in. Very good. We've asked that one, Langers_sport.
How far will the power go in 2023, and how's the team environment after last season? We sort of covered a bit of that.
Cover that. That's like on Footy Classified or something. That's a footy question. We don't do that.
Carazaro.
Yeah, you put that in there, just so you know. You wrote that.
Yep.
Thank you.
I didn't write the question.
It's Stu_Pid. What's going on?
Great. Who's your top 3 most respected opposition defenders and why?
Oh, top 3. Fuck.
Who's hard to play on?
You don't have to give us the why.
Top 1. Who's hard to play on?
Talia. He's pretty hard to play on because he just felt like he didn't want anything to do with the football. He just made sure I had nothing.
Yes.
So that was always very hard. He'd be in my back pocket. And if I could even score 1 to 2 goals on him, that means I'd had a good day.
Yeah.
And Rance I always used to love playing Rance because if you can get hold of him early, he was never out of it. He'd always find a way. And like if I could get a few goals on him early, he would find a way to try and shut me the hell out of the game, and he would do it. But I love playing. I love playing against the best. And who else? Harris Andrews he's up there with one of the toughest as well because he's so long, so strong, and he moves really well.
Just named co-captain of the Brisbane Lions, Harris Andrews, Geelong boy. Congratulations, Riley J. Nelson _
What are Charlie's thoughts on headbutting annoying small forwards?
Now, that is in reference, I believe, to me headbutting Zach Butters, I believe.
That's it. It was Boyd Woodcock, I reckon, you headbutted.
No, it was Zach Butters.
Was it? It actually was.
This is very fun. Who the fuck's Boyd Woodcock? Zach Butters is who I headbutted. Because that's irony, headbutt Butters.
Headbutt Butters,
Did you play that game? It was Hub.
That was the Hub game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Play on.
Seb Vanders.
It's not leadership, that's for sure. It's definitely not leadership.
Seb Vanders.
What is the most wild off-field story from your time at the Suns?
I'm going to pause and say maybe we could hold that for our VIPs,
for the patrons. Okay.
We do one question for our VIPs, our patrons, that doesn't go out to anyone. We'll still keep it like PG, but maybe I think that's a good question. Maybe
sure.
ask it. Because there's a better one about the Gold Coast Suns that's not here that I'll just ask instead.
Yep.
What was your weirdest, wildest appearance as a Gold Coast Sun player, you know, so your community appearances, maybe your sponsorship deal, you're down at, like I had one at IGA Leederville, which is not far from where we are now.
It's from Camo Cox. It's there. Best worst promo gig when you're at the Suns.
Sorry.
Best worst promo gig.
I was down in the fruit and veg department down in the local IGA once, and about 3 people came through. I was signing posters, and like, everyone just wanted their fucking apples and bananas. You were fucking I feel like at the Gold Coast, maybe they had you doing some rogue stuff to get the footy name out there.
Oh, we used to go, like, for the worst one, we'd go to, like, pure rugby league places, and they'd just, I don't know if I can say this, but they'd be calling us GayFL. Like, you guys play GayFL all the time. Like, these are little kids out at, like, Logan Home and all this sort of stuff. They would nearly try and bash us because we were AFL people. But then, and so that was odd that we'd go out into the rugby league mixer and like try and sell them AFL. Like, and then what we would do was like, because they didn't want to do anything football, we'd just kick the balls as high as we could, and then watch them hit the kids on the way down. Like, and they try and catch the ball, and like that was all we did, all we could do with them because they were absolute maniacs out there. But then I had a couple of good appearances. Was like Magic Millions, had to do an appearance for like Jeep. And like we were in like the main area, then went to, so that turned into a big day. That was a good
Accidentally leave your contacts in that night.
Yeah, accidentally left them in that night, that's for sure.
That's very good. James_Belton.
What superpower would you have if it wasn't growing a godlike beard?
That is actually a very good superpower.
I think being able to fly would be pretty good.
That would be good.
I'd just be like, right, I'm out.
That would be actually very, very good.
Yeah.
This is a good one. Kane Zach.
Hi, King Charles. Do you give 2 shits about the prison bar jumper issue?
That's very. I got to be. I think.
I got to be.
I think it's a great jumper and everything like that, but at the same time, we need to, like, it can't be the same argument every year. We can't keep having the same argument. It's been done. Like whatever agreement they worked out, that's why we can't wear it. I'd just rather just move on and be like, I know we do a lot of stuff with our prison bars and history of the club. We need to move on, I think. I
know you're skirting on because the fact that you don't want to get held up. Did you play in the game where the boys put them on after the game?
Yeah.
Did you play in that?
Yeah.
That was pretty fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah. It's different. I had no idea what we're doing, and then we come down and we're shopping jumpers. So, I mean, we got to do what the club wants us to do, and we support it, of course. Like, and I think, we should be allowed to wear it 1 game a year. Like, there's no dramas with that. I don't think there is. But at the end of the day, like, it's a jumper. We've just got to move on, and we've just got to keep playing.
We're done and dusted.
I was going to say, I saw a video of you wearing the prison bars jumper. I don't know if it's the exact one, but you were blowing kisses to the crowd while you were...
Oh, yeah. That was actually like my first game back after breaking my leg.
Wow.
And Samful, I think we were playing the Redlegs or something like that, and they were giving it to me all game. When there was even, and then I'd just kick 3 goals in a row or something like that, and I've walked off the bench, and they were stone cold silent, and I was like, I can't fucking hear you now, can I? And then they're all like, oh, you.
Was this in the sample?
In the sample.
How good's playing in the sample, giving it to the crowd?
Oh, mate.
I used to do that on the regular. I played a lot of waffle footy.
Yeah, like
I used to love the banter.
But they're brutal.
Yeah.
So it's like,
give it that.
Fuck you, Zach. You know, like, but like that's what I love about like the SA Full. Like they just love it, and they're so passionate about it, and that's just, and I'm passionate too, and like. If you're going to give it, you've got to expect to cop it, you know.
Correct.
Like, so yeah, that was probably that. That's
mate. We hope you have a great year this year. We appreciate you coming in. Sorry it's so fucking hot. I'm really hot. I'm going to get the sweats on. Stick around, VIPs. We're going to have a little couple of questions here for Charlie. Mate, have a great year. Thanks very much, everyone who's listening. BackChat _. Follow us on socials. BackChatPodcast.com.au. You can find us over there. All the good shit there. You know what to do. With the Snapper Whiskey, Margaret River Roasting Co., Blue Bet, Shelter Brewing Co., Leadable Cameras, VIPs for patrons. You know what's up.
Yep.
We'll see you next week.